Hey, what is up everybody? This is Devon B coming to you here tonight. We're sitting here talking about WWE Hell in the Cell 2017. We've done this 1,000 times. This is going to be the full show preview. I'm sitting here. I got DeMarcus Cousins with me. We're about to drink this tall glass of milk, and that's the bottom line. Because that's what we do here on the Stevie Breach channel. We talk about upcoming WWE pay-per-views. We cover all the matches. I will tell you though, honestly, I've made 4 videos about this. Basically, hyping up WWE Starrcade 2017. I just found out the news the other day that honestly, Starrcade is not going to be shown on the WWE Network. It is just going to be a hyped up house show coming to you live from Greensboro. So if you live in the Carolinas, you're the only people that are going to be able to see this show. Make sure you go out of your way to see it, because I can honestly tell you that I will join into the long list of fans that care more about Starrcade than they do the upcoming Hell in the Cell show. I will tell you honestly, much like a lot of the WWE pay-per-views as of late, Starrcade, I apologize, Hell in the Cell has one match that is must-see, and then it has a few other matches that are just, they're on the show, you might as well watch them. It seems to me, honestly, since I go back to the brand split. When the brand split was first announced, I said this is going to be good for wrestling because it is going to create more stars. It's going to push more people. And you can honestly tell that right now, if they would not have done the brand split, the easiest way to say this is Jinder Mahal would not even have a job in WWE. And Jinder Mahal is now WWE champion. And honestly, WWE Smackdown is going through a legendary bottom out period that only makes me remember why the brand split stopped a few years ago, even when Randy Orton was champion and fans were not showing up to house shows, fans were not showing up to Smackdown tapings. And Vince at that time really thought, hey, it's because Raw is the A show and there's fans in the area who only watch Raw who don't know who these guys are. So let's put the Smackdown guys on Raw, call it the Super Show, and we'll just keep the Raw guys on their own, having their own house shows, not being a part of SmackDown on Tuesday. So, I'm not going to say that wrestling is bottoming out. I'm just honestly saying that I know that I don't feel the same way as I felt about wrestling a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It's like an ongoing bottom out period for me, myself. Of course, just like everybody else, Shane versus Kevin Owens is the reason that I'll come home to watch wrestling that night. That is the night, that's the reason why I know come 5 o'clock here on the West Coast, I will be sitting down on my couch with some sort of cold beverage as well as something good to eat, knowing that I'm going to be watching 3 hours of WWE. And more often than not, it's a good show, and I feel like, hey, this is worth my $10 for the WWE Network. So I don't really honestly have any room to complain. But when I look at this card for Hell in the Cell, nothing really jumps off of the card other than Shane versus Kevin Owens in the Hell in the Cell match. We're going to have a second Hell in the Cell match, which is going to be the Usos versus the New Day. We've seen these guys in ladder matches. We've seen these guys just about any way possible. And I think this is going to be a great way to really show off what could happen. The only thing that could be, I'm not going to say that the Elimination Chamber, that they use the tag teams in it, that involve the New Day, I'm not going to say that was one of the worst, Elimination Chambers of all time. But it's definitely got to be better than that. And even though, in my opinion, the New Day is slipping and falling a little bit, and maybe it's time to, end that train, definitely they're going to go out there and they're going to find a way to use that. Just think about all the things that Kofi Kingston has done in the world of wrestling, whether if it's been in Royal Rumbles or in, ladder matches or in just any kind of thing that's possible. His mind's ticking right now, and I'm definitely thinking they're going to be coming up with a cool spot. Remember the Serena del Sol that the Usos took during the ladder match of TLC a few years ago? This is going to be good stuff. This is going to be hot. Definitely the WWE Championship match for the third pay-per-view in a row from the Smackdown brand, which started back at SummerSlam. Nakamura is still chasing the WWE Championship. I don't think there's a doubt in anybody's mind that Nakamura is going to be beating Mahal for the belt here. Just sort of feel bad that it took him 3 times in order to get the big one. From there we go to Natalya battling against Charlotte. That should be a really good match. Corbin versus AJ, honestly, in my mind, could go either way. Bobby Roode versus Ziggler is probably going to be the best wrestling match of the night. And Orton versus Rusev takes a, just sort of, it's on the show. It is what it is. I'm not going bananas about it. Probably don't want to take up any time doing its own little video, but the kickoff match involves the new American Alpha, Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin, going up against the Hype Bros. I will honestly tell you that all 4 of these guys are guys that I really do like. I really do wish that these guys will, succeed and join on to the real pay-per-view sooner than later. To me, honestly, I'm not going to say it's a waste, but American Alpha needs to be on that show chasing after those titles. Let the Usos and New Day blow off in this Hell in a Cell, and then let's get American Alpha back on track. Hype Bros, with Zack Ryder having the heel turn, honestly, it adds a good layer of depth. Definitely, the tag team division isn't as thick as it once was on SmackDown, but I still think it's there, and I believe in it, and we'll see. This is going to be a good show. From here, we'll go on and we'll start talking about all the matches and lining them up. See you in the next one. And what is, I guess, is a rematch and is now going to be the rubber match from SummerSlam. Rusev will be battling against Randy Orton. This, of course, is the payoff. Randy Orton getting the win at Survivor Series. And then Randy Orton had a match against Aiden English, where once the match was finally over, Rusev attacked him and then was able to secure a victory of his own, tying this at 1 win apiece. Honestly, in my mind, I don't even know why these guys started the battle that they're in. I can honestly tell you that I don't care anything about this feud at all. Rusev at one point was a very interesting character and then just sort of seemed to just, maybe it was his injury, where he just sort of faded off into the middle of nowhere. Now here he is having a match against Orton that I know nothing about. Orton did do the job to Rusev, but he had to, have a match before it to begin with. Rusev was granted the key to the city and treated like he was like the Bulgarian, star of the day with his own ticker-tape parade, pretty much, where Orton surprised everyone by showing up and RKOing him. To me, honestly, I think this is going to be the blow-off match. I don't know where either one of these guys go from this feud, but I definitely have Orton beating Rusev, and then Rusev trolling the world with his Twitter account. Basically, we've heard everything in the world from Rusev saying that him and Lana are expecting a baby, Rusev saying that he has left WWE, just trying to play up to all the dirt sheets, which follow everyone on Twitter and take everything word for word as what they do on there. I hope that Rusev can regain himself to be back on top of being one of the elite members of the WWE. I can't really pinpoint it to one loss or one match or one feud that he had. But he is definitely somebody that I thought that was really going to rise when they did the brand split, which is coming up on 2 years now, or maybe just a year. But it seems like he's just faded off into the middle of nowhere. And I'm not saying this guy should be WWE champion, because I don't want to see anybody go on a run like Jinder Mahal has, where he's just totally lost any steam that he had. But there's got to be something good for him out there. So I don't think he's going to win this match, but I hope the next feud brings something cool for him. In the match, it's probably going to be the real wrestling match of the night. This probably will be the best match on the card, unless they just really blow it up inside of the Hell in a Cell cages, which hasn't really happened in a while because of the fact of being in the PG era and not being able to really use the cage for everything it's worth. If you want to just go, just on the mat, ground wrestling, I don't think it's going to get any better in the night than Bobby Roode versus Dolph Ziggler. The whole Ziggler versus Roode feud is something that I really don't understand. Ziggler, took some time off. He came back. He said that he had changed his character in order to try and be more over with the fans. To me, Ziggler always was one guy that always went out there and gave 110% every match. I think that honestly the fans recognize that, and even though the WWE might not think that he is over, I've always thought that he's one of the guys that's got one of the best crowd responses. But to me, honestly, he's a guy that just gets put into these weird feuds where all of a sudden it seems like he's slipped all the way down the card, and then all of a sudden they remember he's Dolph Ziggler, and they put him in a title match, and it's just to the point where I don't think anybody think that he has any believability to him. I think that they need to get behind him, actually show that he could be in a spot where he could be champion and is believable in his matches and his feuds. Because I think he's just been so up and down and around like a rubber band that nobody really buys unless he's in like a match for the Intercontinental title that he has a shot to win the championship. I don't really understand why he's been doing the Ultimate Warrior, Undertaker. I don't think he's done the Roddy Piper entrance, but if he does, I'll pop for it. He's got to have the bagpipes and all that jazz too with him, but he's basically trying to almost do what Eugene did, Nick Dinsmore, with the whole character of him trying to, play off of all of his heroes that he had. The one thing that I can tell you that I know that Dolph Ziggler really is a real wrestling fan. He's not doing any of these imitations as sort of a knock on anyone. I was really surprised at the fact that, I guess the only way to call her is Dana Warrior, took offense to Dolph Ziggler doing the Ultimate Warrior entrance, saying that it made him look like a goof, but maybe not everyone's going to understand. To me, Bobby Roode stood up to Ziggler. Ziggler says that the only thing he has going for him is an entrance, so I guess this is the battle of the entrances at Hell in a Cell 2017. To me, I really like Bobby Roode. I've liked him all the way back when he was in TNA. I think that he has a lot to give WWE in the main roster since moving up from NXT. Him being placed as a babyface doesn't make a ton of sense to me. This is a match that I think is a coin flip and honestly could go either way because of the fact that I think this feud isn't just a one-off. I picked Ziggler to win this match because I think this is going to be rerun at the next pay-per-view down the road. So my money's on Ziggler to beat Bobby Roode at Hell in a Cell. In no surprise to any, AJ Styles has turned the United States Championship into the new Workers' Championship that guys like the Texas Tornado, Mr. Perfect, made the Intercontinental Championship back in the early 90s. To me, honestly, almost every time anyone wins the Intercontinental Championship, we always hear from guys that WWE is trying to make the title relevant again, and this is the guy that's going to make the Intercontinental Championship mean something. Whether this is Dolph Ziggler beating The Miz at No Mercy last year, or the thousands of other times that rumor has popped up. To me, I was honestly really surprised when AJ Styles kept the United States Championship. He's a former WWE champion, and I'm not saying that anybody should ever drop down in the ranks. John Cena won the United States Championship, and they had the idea around WrestleMania 31 that, he would wrestle with the United States title on Monday Night Raw. Daniel Bryan would wrestle with the Intercontinental Championship on SmackDown. And, you know, those would be like the Workers' Championships, where they would bring the best out of people that were on the main roster that didn't really get to show off their wrestling skills and bring it to the table. To me, AJ as the United States Champion sort of really helps SmackDown out, because as of right now, with Jinder Mahal as the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, you can easily see that he is squandering fans away. But AJ is someone that, you know, with a belt, is going to make any match matter. To me, if this was just AJ Styles versus Baron Corbin as a normal match, it's just a match to me. But I think that it adds a level of prestige to the match, because of the fact that the United States title is on the line, and really makes you have to think about where they're going with each of these guys in the future. This sort of has a back feud to go along with it. You know, there's a third man waiting in the wings, Ty Dillinger. You know, 10. Since he's been moved up to the main roster, I believe it was around the Royal Rumble, he was on the show, but then he didn't get his main debut till, I believe, I can't remember if it was before, during, or after WrestleMania. I think it was the night after, I think it was the SmackDown after WrestleMania that he made his real SmackDown debut for SmackDown Live. But, you know, he hasn't been getting a lot of wins. He's a guy that's, you know, if he's been on pay-per-view, it's been on the kickoff, and really hasn't been able to show off his skills. Even in NXT, I don't believe that he was able to show off his skills. But out of the middle of nowhere, it was in Las Vegas. AJ Styles had an open challenge for the United States Championship, and it was answered by Ty Dillinger. Dillinger and AJ Styles had a really good match that was broken up by Baron Corbin, because Baron Corbin thought that he was the true #1 contender to go after the United States Championship. If he didn't have the Money in the Bank anymore after losing it because of John Cena, you know, he was not going to get a shot at the WWE Championship. He wanted a shot at being the United States Champion, because he thought that would help him move up the ranks of being one of the main stars of SmackDown. Because of this, you know, basically we've had Ty Dillinger get a win over AJ Styles in a non-championship match. Then when he was given another championship shot, the match was broken up by Baron Corbin, because Corbin didn't want anyone else becoming the United States Champion but him. To me, honestly, I know that AJ in wrestling world terms would have been given the first rematch to go after the championship after losing it. But why wouldn't Baron Corbin just honestly look at it as Ty Dillinger is less of a competitor than AJ Styles? I mean, if you had to go in the ring against one of those guys, which one are you going to pick? I guarantee everyone watching this video is going to pick Ty Dillinger to have the match against. Corbin could have just waited in the wings and waited that one. This should be a good match. I'm guessing that we see Dillinger in some fashion, but I take AJ to get the win. And we're back after taking a little bit of a short break there. We're coming back with the SmackDown Women's Championship match, Natalya versus Charlotte Flair. I will tell you that honestly, I had been pushing for Natalya to win the Women's Championship for a while. It almost seemed as if she was being pushed out to pasture around WrestleMania 29 when Total Divas started, and Natalya really became the star of that show. And it seemed like every time, you know, a year would roll around, she was being pushed out. Around the time of WrestleMania 31, she wasn't even wrestling again. She was just sort of managing Cesaro and Tyson Kidd. And then she really just started breaking out on her own and just kept pushing and pushing and pushing to the point where, you know, they had to give her this run. And it's hard to believe how long it's been since she was really on top of the women's division. She's always been one of the best women's wrestlers that they've had there, and I think this is a great way to really reward her for all of the time that she's been there. I'm not quite sure how much longer Natalya is going to be in WWE. I know that Tyson Kidd just took sort of a backstage role I don't know if that's only for the purposes of keeping him and Natalya on Total Divas, or if that was something to really to keep him involved in the WWE, or maybe it's just one of those sort of hush jobs because of how everything went down with the injury when he wrestled against Samoa Joe. I will say that honestly, I'm picking against Natalya in the match at Hell in a Cell, just for the fact that I think that Charlotte, I know not everyone can be on top forever, but Charlotte, to me, honestly, I got used to her being the queen of the women's division on the Monday Night Raw brand. And her going over to SmackDown, I thought was her going to be grabbing the title over there and sort of taking it to the new heights that the Raw one did with Sasha Banks and Bayley and all the girls over there. Charlotte, I don't think has been used to quite 100% of her as her potential. She's came out and basically said that she doesn't want to wrestle as a babyface. She's almost, becoming the new Randy Orton, saying that it's not as fun. I think that honestly, Charlotte as the heel is 10 times better. In the opening of this video, I talked about the WWE Starrcade event, which is only going to be a house show in Greensboro. This match is actually supposed to happen there as well. I honestly would not be heartbroken if this ended up not being where Charlotte took the title from Natalya, and it would happen on that Starrcade show. We all know what the Flairs mean to the Carolinas. We all know what the Flairs mean to Starrcade. And honestly, in my opinion, if they wanted to sort of push that to become a Thanksgiving tradition in the Greensboro and North Carolina area, is to have that house show there as well as calling it Starrcade. I think that would definitely give the fans something to send them home happy, with Charlotte winning the championship there and giving them a moment that definitely everyone's going to be talking about in the world of professional wrestling. Because, every once in a while, house shows do have championship title matches, but it's very rarely that it does happen. This seems like it's going to be a show that is a little bit more than a normal house show for WWE. It's to the point where I wish that I was able to watch it. I wish that it would be a network special, much like the Madison Square Garden show or the Beast from the East, Brock Lesnar in Japan show that went down. There's a whole bunch of specialty matches that go on there, and I think that Charlotte versus Natalya, with Charlotte going over, could be one for the ages. So I'm looking forward to this at Hell in a Cell, but I'm wishing that I was a part of that Starrcade show as well. Take Charlotte for the win, but we'll see what happens. The Smackdown Tag Team Championship match has to be taking place in a Hell in a Cell to sort of build up the battle of the Usos versus the New Day. These guys honestly have been battling back and forth for the last few months, and the New Day and the Usos is a feud that spans over the SmackDown as well as over the Raw brand, dating back a few years here. I think that this match has happened in just about every fashion possible, whether it's been a rap battle on SmackDown, held as a part of the ladders match on the TLC show. I believe the Usos were involved with the New Day in that Elimination Chamber match a few years ago. That was one of the first house shows that got turned into a network special. This is going to be a very fun match. This will be, the first tag team championship match, but it will not be the first tag team match to happen inside of Hell in a Cell. I'm guessing this is going to be held under, I guess you would call it Texas Tornado tag rules, where all four men will be in the match, going at it at one piece. The only way they could screw this up is that I think if they would have found a way to give the New Day the advantage. Although there are no rules in the Hell in a Cell, and we've seen from Hell in a Cell matches in the past that they've come up with thousands of different ways to get out of the cell in order to fight in the aisle or climb the cage and fight on top. If they are going to give the New Day the advantage of 3-on-2, even though they're baby faces, I'm hoping that they find a way to really play up how they do it. I don't want to see just one of the members of the New Day, whether if it's Xavier Woods, just sort of open the cage door, walk in, and have the advantage. If it means the Usos have to, throw one of the members of the New Day through the actual fencing of the Hell in a Cell, and then once they're on the outside, they do the little switcheroo, like they've done in the past, just trading out a fresh man for somebody who's beaten down. That would be something, but I just don't want to see them have 3-on-2 advantage like they did in the Elimination Chamber a few years ago. After the New Day helped out the Authority, the Authority gave the New Day the heads up that they were going to have all 3 members inside of their pod at the Elimination Chamber, would not have to use the Freebirds rule of having to pick which 2 members would be involved in the match. We've seen the Usos as well as the New Day in just about every type of match possible, and they've knocked it out of the park. I'm really looking forward to this one. In my mind, I'm rooting for the Usos, and I'm hoping they're going to be taking those tag titles and walking all the way out of the Hell in a Cell structure, the new tag team champions. Jinder Mahal versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the WWE Championship, honestly, in my mind, is one of the biggest head scratchers there are in professional wrestling. I completely understand Jinder Mahal being on the chase for the WWE Championship, but in my mind, the perfect night to crown Shinsuke as the WWE Champion would have been back at WWE SummerSlam, where he was the #1 contender and was going up against Jinder. I know that, there's a lot of talk that we've been talking about for a while now about Jinder Mahal leading this craze of WWE trying to get involved with India, and however many there are, Indian wrestling fans trying to convert them to be watching WWE, to help them out with TV numbers, as well as future shows and advertising, as well as merchandise being brought into that country. As we speak right now, Triple H is actually on a trip into India. I'm not sure what he's doing there, if he's trying to get preparations done for an upcoming tour, or trying to sign the next television rights deal over there. But that is where Triple H is. He actually missed the NXT tapings, which is the first NXT tapings that he's missed since being a part of NXT. To me, Jinder versus Shinsuke happening for a 3rd time without having a championship change, to me, is just mind-bending. I completely understand, when wrestlers like Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Rock, even John Cena being on the chase for the WWE Championship, increases viewerships because people want to root for their favorite in order to see them win it. To me, honestly, SummerSlam should have been the crowning moment for Nakamura, to crown him as one of the future definite main eventers of WWE. Him coming over from New Japan Pro Wrestling, him being involved in NXT, becoming their champion, and then, being moved over to the main roster. He got picked to come to Smackdown for a reason. I believe it was to lead this brand, and people say that he is sort of the guy that John Cena is handing the reins over to. Nakamura should have already been the champion and already started a monumental run. Instead, people are pointing the finger at Jinder Mahal as sort of, chasing fans away from SmackDown, which in a lot of people's mind was the true wrestling show. But much like with Monday Night Raw and me, that with Brock Lesnar not around and Brock Lesnar being the champion, it makes me lose interest in the show because I don't know what I'm rooting for or what I'm waiting for. People normally win matches in order to challenge for the championship, but when the champion's not around, it seems like guys are just going out there and fighting to fight, and that just doesn't really interest me. It's sort of one of the things that draws me off from UFC a little bit. Right now, SmackDown's house show numbers, as well as television ratings and television ticket sales, are down. Most people point to Jinder Mahal being the champion. I'm not going to say this guy is the worst champion of all time. People have had debates whether that's Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Diesel. But to me, honestly, it's just time for a change. I think people saw through this. I think people saw that Jinder Mahal was a guy that before the brand split, was a member of a 3-man band that did not work, and he was released. People had said that he sort of worked small independent shows, but I can honestly tell you that from the moment Jinder Mahal was released from WWE and the moment that he was re-signed, I never heard Jinder Mahal's name mentioned one time in any news articles talking about great independent matches, people drawing houses to shows. It was like he dropped off the face of the earth. I would have thought that he was a lot like, someone that left wrestling to try to get into the world of acting. Jinder has to lose the belt. Nakamura needs to win it at this show, at Hell in a Cell, and take that spot of being the main guy. Immediately in this feud, immediately get Nakamura into another feud, even if it's against a guy like Randy Orton, and have this guy winning real matches to brand him as the future of WWE. Your main event of WWE Hell in a Cell 2017 is a big one. Anytime Shane McMahon gets involved in any kind of angle, with him being the chairman, Vince McMahon's son, especially with him going up against a wrestler, and this being Kevin Owens, who is a brawler, who is a real wrestler, who we know gets in the ring to hurt people, it's going to be a big deal. I've never seen Shane involved in any kind of angle that was not basically borderline the main event. Whether that was him going up against guys like Steve Blackman, Kane, Kurt Angle. These matches have always sort of been something to give you one sort of spot that the night after Hell in a Cell is what you're going to be still talking about. Shane blew my mind when he got involved in the world of wrestling. Even if you go back to the WrestleMania 15 match against X-Pac, where he had the Mean Street Posse and he was going after I think he was defending the European Championship. But him and X-Pac whipped each other big time with a weightlifting belt, and that was sort of how he earned his stripes, to show that he really wanted to do this, and he meant it, that he wanted to wrestle. He wanted to live in the, I guess you can say, the steps of his father. I know it's been a year plus since Shane returned to WWE. We still really don't know what his job is inside of WWE. He doesn't have a real corporate, I guess you can say, title like Triple H or like Stephanie does. I'm just glad that he's back. I mean, he's wrestling a few times a year. WrestleMania. He did Survivor Series last year. Around SummerSlam, we started hearing that Shane was getting in shape in order to have a match. People thought it was going to be a match that happened at SummerSlam, and people thought it was going to happen against Kevin Owens. They let the story build to where Shane didn't have to wrestle in match after match leading up to it. They were able to go right into a Hell in a Cell match, and it made sense. It was believable that Vince was putting Kevin Owens inside of Hell in a Cell against Shane McMahon. And because it's inside of Hell in a Cell, it almost gave an advantage to Shane. There's lots of rumors going on about this match. I think everyone has Kevin Owens winning it, but now the point is that Kevin Owens is going to be freed from SmackDown and will actually be moving to the Monday Night Raw brand after beating Shane in this match, because I guess Kevin will beat Shane so bad that SmackDown doesn't want him around anymore, or maybe he just is able to free himself and is actually able to do what he wants. The whole angle went down where Shane beat Kevin Owens up, and then Kevin Owens was saying that he was going to sue Vince, he was going to sue WWE, he was going to turn this into the Kevin Owens show, and Vince basically said that he was going to just put Kevin Owens out of business, and this was the only way that they could get around that, was giving Kevin Owens the match that he wanted. To me, I think this is fun. This is going to be really good. This is going to be a good Sunday night. I'm picking Kevin Owens to win this. Besides for moving to Raw, I don't really know what you build to. I guess if Kevin Owens wins this match and does stay on SmackDown, this definitely is a win that's a caliber enough to move him into being the #1 contender. If Nakamura was to win the WWE Championship and they end the Jinder Mahal storyline, right there after 3 matches, I think that's probably the best case scenario, is that we get Kevin Owens going after the title with Nakamura as champ. So that's what we're going to hang our hat on. I'm really looking forward to the show for this match. Definitely Shane's going to go out there and he's going to try and kill himself. And we're going to be in for a good one. So let's see what goes down.